Indeed. I think we're live. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Good evening. One more Tuesday. For me, cold Tuesday. For Michael, it's a little bit warmer Tuesday. So, but in total, as I said, and as I promised myself, I must be honest that it will not struggle this thing whenever I am in the world.
Mhm.
So, if we have internet, we will start. So that's why tonight we have our special guest, a special Dutchy friend of mine, if I may say like that, Michael,
Definitely.
who is very indeed. And good evening, my friend, and good evening. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you. Yes, my name is Michiel Hamers, and yes, you definitely can say you are my friend because I really like the co-working with you and a lot of meetings together already with you. So definitely, and it's also nice to have to be in this MCT and MVP show. So yep, and let's also start with a small introduction. As I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and a Microsoft most valuable professional, so I'm also an MCT and an MVP. What I learned from that part is that a Microsoft certified trainer can explain a bit on the things what he learned about some Microsoft certifications or Microsoft exams or training material. And the
Yeah,
MVP part is, at least from my perspective, I like to talk and I like to share my knowledge. And that has been seen by Microsoft. And they, for 2 times in a row, they, yeah, they graduated me or they celebrated that sharing of knowledge with the status of Microsoft MVP, and that's on the focus area of Microsoft Azure, which I really love.
nice. I think I don't need to introduce you, mate. You gave a perfect introduction for yourself, I must be honest. And I'm saying very often what we learn as a Microsoft trainer, then we are sharing that as a MVPs, if I may say like that, if you continue,
Yeah.
all that stuff like that.
Mhm. Awesome. Yep. Yeah.
Indeed.
Exactly. Exactly. Because we are first learning, and after learning, we are sharing that, and it's from my perspective, it's always a continuous loop, right?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Did you watch a little bit today the keynote speech of Satya or that thing, or you didn't have time?
I did a small investigation, a small part. Unfortunately, not all the details, but it's.
Yeah,
I also had the yeah. I feel like an honor to read the Microsoft Ignite Book of News a little bit earlier than the rest of the world,
yeah,
um, and it's all about new things. At the same time, it's also all about AI and Copilot and we already know, of course, that AI and Copilot is here to stay, and that we just continue the journey.
indeed, indeed. A lot of I was reading the same like you in the metro here when I was coming home, and I was listening on the live. There was a live also on LinkedIn and YouTube. I was listening, so a lot of new things also for the on-prem guys, if I may say like that. There is something called new thing Azure Local, which will go Azure Stack, Azure Arc, and all that stuff. Basically, a new PC also for the Windows 365. I forgot the name, how he said, and a lot of new things for the co-pilots, if I may say like that, which it will have a huge impact also now. I mean, it have already, but a lot of different things for the Office 365 and all that stuff. What I was missing, I must be honest with you, it was missing to be he didn't mention anything for Azure Copilot, to be honest with you, and it's already a year, I think. And basically, there is no changes. It's basically four categories different, and basically that's it. Or I'm wrong?
Exactly. The Microsoft Azure is still the yeah. I'm not sure it's called the little brother or the little sister within the Copilot ecosystem.
Yeah.
I really would love that the Microsoft Azure Copilot will be extended and more um, really embedded in the life of a Microsoft IT admin. But
Yeah.
it's still on the small surface that it's already in the preview beta versions. It's still that's really a pity because I really love all the things that Copilot can do, and also the agents of Microsoft Copilot can do. But the Microsoft Azure Copilot is still really basic, and it can give you insights in, let's say, the advisory part of the Microsoft Azure.
Yes,
And then
indeed.
it stated, at least from my perspective, it stated that it's okay. Maybe you have some advisories about Microsoft Azure and your Microsoft Azure subscription, like
Yeah,
maybe you can do this or that to improve your security or to reduce your cost or to reduce your CO2 footprint or your emission footprint. But still, it's like um, you can do this, but
yeah,
while the other Microsoft Copilots and the other Microsoft 365 agents are really tapping into the, okay, I can do this for you. Let's alter this and let's modify it and let's really use it on the job as a Copilot that Copilot can execute those things.
yeah,
While in the Azure part, it's more like, okay, we are still here and it's almost only the generative AI, like text AI,
indeed.
without the next step to execute it and without the steps to solve your Azure management automatically.
Indeed. And today they announced that also for the Office 365, for example, even the SharePoint will get an agent which can help, for example, sometimes really on the company SharePoints, it's really tough to figure it out which is what, in which page and everything. And today they announced that also there will be agents for all Office 365, especially the SharePoint in this case, which if they improve that one, I still can't understand, the Azure Copilot and why it's still like a consultant, if I may say like that. Yeah, you need to go here, there, left, right, and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
really nice. Yeah, a lot of new things. And 2025, I'm expecting to have really huge impact and a lot of new things also. But let's see. Let's see. I hope next year we will go together.
What yeah, definitely. I would love to go to the Ignite sessions next year or the Microsoft Build, or at least I want to go to the Microsoft MVP summit early
Summit.
next year.
Yeah.
But what I also find interesting, every time again, every Ignite or Microsoft Build or other big conferences of Microsoft, they are um, um, introducing, and I'm not sure it's really introducing, it's renaming products. And I find it really difficult because the Microsoft AI Studio is
Okay.
now called Azure AI Foundry Portal, which
That was
need to,
announced today, Foundry.
yeah,
Today,
yeah,
indeed.
and it's really like we are renaming like Microsoft Azure Active Directory, which is renamed to Microsoft Entra ID. Uh,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to catch up and to, keep up with all the rename activities, and that makes it sometimes also a struggle because sometimes I hear a new name like Azure AI Foundry Portal, and then
Yeah.
let's say in a month or so, if I didn't knew that, like in a month, have you any experience with the Azure AI Foundry Portal? And then I can say no, I didn't have any experience. On the other hand, on the Azure AI Studio, I do have experience. So it's yeah, all those renames is
Complicated. Yeah.
exactly.
Quite complicated. I discussed with two, three friends. I was sharing the book of news basically before we start, and one of my friends really just replied, "Mate, I really cannot even follow what is the latest, what it went in the past, what is the new. It's really every day some new things are coming, but indeed it's tough sometimes. So we need to just prepare our RSS feed correctly and just to follow all of the news properly, if I may say like that. But we will get there, if I may say like that. And
Mhm.
talking now for Copilot, I'm really curious now to back you in time because we are now 2024. When Michael started with the computers, if I may ask him like that.
Oh, when I have to go back a bit in time.
Yeah,
The first picture of me at a computer, which was a Commodore 64, was
okay,
at about my 10th, 11th year that I live. So at my
yeah,
anniversary or something like that. And that's yeah, I'm now 46. It's, let's say, 35 years ago or something. Like that. So when it was like 1988 or something, approximately, because it's a picture of me at the Commodore 64,
Yeah.
which I really loved at the time. But also, yeah, sometimes I'm not sure if you knew that. It's almost like the the grandfather is saying something really old. But
Yeah.
what I did was like a magazine about Commodore 64. I have it next to my keyboard of my Commodore 64, and I really typed what was in that
The-
magazine of Commodore 64, and I really typed that small program and copied it over, like copy, or at least typed it over, and
yeah.
then
Manually.
uh, and
Manually
then
copy.
manually copy, and then I run the program, and of course the first time I did fail, so I need to debug what kind of typo what did I make, and then after that I really have that same program that's in the system or in the magazine, and then alter it and changed it, and I think that's also one of my first moments that I understood that that was the exact program, and that is like developing or programming or altering someone else program, and make it my own, and change it and alter it, so that it's not the application anymore of the magazine, but it was my own magazine. So I learned it from that way to develop a program.
Indeed, indeed. I remember for me it was a little bit later, to be honest with you. I remember front page doing the same that you said. Front page for creating websites. I was typing this HTML code, just to see how it will look. It was classical, just blank page with on left side, home, services, about contact, but you're typing manually, copy paste manually, if I may say, from the
Mhm.
magazine and all the stuff, which was really funny, to be honest. Every month to see something new, because let's be honest, there was no internet enough in that period and all that stuff. Wow, Commodore 64, it was the first one. Really nice to see, to be
Yeah.
honest. And here, uh, how is going after that, if I may ask you like that? After the Commodore, what is happening? Did you really like to continue in that way, if I may ask like that? Do you
Oh
struggle? Yeah,
yeah.
let me family, can you, somebody from family, buy me a new computer, the latest, for example, in that period?
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I did not have the option to have a new computer right away, but
Yeah.
still, I volunteered at a local broadcasting radio and broadcasting for text on television. So really like local broadcasting, like only in the city where I lived on,
The
where
down, the bottom on
um,
the TV that were going,
and
something
yeah,
like
and
that.
also like an like the what is called teletext. I'm not sure what
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
correct,
yeah, the same.
but that they have also like those pages are like a PowerPoint slide deck. They are processed like local news, like teletext,
In
that is really in broadcasting every, let's say, 15 20 seconds, a new slide and a new slide, but in that broadcasting system, and it was the same system as that teletext system, so it was not really graphical, and I volunteered over there,
Yeah,
and on via that way I learned a lot of other IT tech guys which have the yeah, more computers, more, and it was called an AT system, and after that at 80 86 82 86 two different computers that they had, and I
yeah,
learned by practicing, by creating those broadcasting pages. I learned more about computers and how they can deliver an local broadcasting show. Yeah, it's not a show, like an continuously kiosk loop, as PowerPoint can now deliver it out of the box without any
indeed.
difficult. But at that moment, it was really like, whoa, you can
Wow.
really have yeah. So that was and after maybe that when I was 16 or something, they upgraded that, and then there was a possibility also to draw, like NOS teletext does, like drawing in teletext
ASCII
and
code, something like
in
that.
ASCII code, but it's the drawings at that moment were almost that bad as my drawings skills at paper, because that's also not good. I can tell you that. But it was my first steps in getting to know how computers work, how developing works, how running code works, and also, and I think that's maybe more important, that you have a production environment, an acceptance environment, and that you can try out and have a sandbox environment. But when it comes to production, then you have to watch closely and seriously on how other people will receive your
Indeed.
solution.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
learn a lot.
Just to connect on this, to do not forget what I want to say, this ASCII code remind me 2 weeks ago on the Microsoft AI tour in
Hilversum.
Hilversum. That's indeed what is happening. Basically, for AI, they say it that there's a security issue for now, that somebody tried to hijack basically the model. And for example, if I ask the model, hey, can you tell me how I can create a bomb? He will say, yeah, that's content, it's really sensitive, this and that, he will block. But if you write it via ASCII code, for example, with this, how to create a bomb, he's giving you the whole explanation how to create a bomb.
Yeah, and that's one of the most things that I really find interesting and scary at the same time, because
Okay.
guardrails at AI is really, really, really important. Guardrails
Indeed.
to keep the AI into normal standards and social
Yeah.
acceptable standards. But people find a way how to go beyond those limits, and that will happen, and that will be like what we used to have with a virus and an antivirus, malware,
Indeed.
anti-malware, spyware, anti-spyware, also guardrails, and bypassing those guardrails, and if you call it
Indeed.
you have different names on that, but that bypassing those guardrails is really something that we should be keen on in the future. But it's difficult and scary at the
Indeed.
same time.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. It reminds me because I know one lady was presenting there, and basically they share that now it's a little bit tricky. The people are basically, as you said, just bypassing these guardrails and all that stuff. And for the ASCII code, they don't have how to say to stop that. So I don't know what is the status. I didn't try it so far, but I suppose they will try to improve on that basically, because they introduced also today something related with the security and all that stuff, mate. Oh,
Yeah.
crazy stuff. Nice,
Oh,
nice. After the
great.
broadcasting, what is happening? Tell me.
Uh,
Leave that
uh,
there. And for
that,
you, I'm interested more.
yeah, it's after that part. I have maybe, I'm not sure if it's after that broadcasting, but maybe in the broadcasting period. It's the same time that I also was lucky to have. I'm not sure it's called remote work, but we managed to have a computer at home, and
Okay.
that computer was able to upload, dial in to that studio, and then that broadcasting part is can be done from remote, and I can update content of um, um, that system. At the same time, I also learned a lot of other things on IT, so I really kept falling more and more in love with IT, developing programming, but also not only developing, because I normally introduce myself not as a developer, but also
Yeah.
the concepts of IT and delivering a solution what clients can uh, use or can get benefits from. And
Yeah.
at that time, I get, I think it's my first computer that can dial in was an 83, 86, like still Microsoft DOS, but then
Indeed.
combined with a Windows 3.11
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Indeed.
And yeah, what I learned was there that if you have a platform or a solution like Windows, like DOS, or like a basic set of tooling that you have in your toolbox, then you
Okay.
can use it as building blocks. And
Okay.
therefore, I'm not really a developer by heart, but more some person that can use building blocks. And that's my conceptual basis of how to use IT on a correct way. Is we are not. It's not about developing or making the perfect code, but it's more
Okay.
uh, um, combining things in the toolbox or combining things in Windows or in DOS or whatsoever, or in Basic, what I also used to program a bit. Um,
Yeah.
that's it's not about the code or the solution that you create, but how users are using it. Because it doesn't really matter if it's an basic, and later on when I really was convinced that I should go next step, learn the technical information, technische informatica it's called in Dutch, but technical information at the next school
Yeah.
in Ede that I followed. Um, that was not about only developing, but about uh, end user centric and end user focused, creating solutions that can help and assist, and that can be maybe scary to say at this moment, but at that moment it was pretty good with tools like Microsoft Access.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, it's not something that I normally would say on my resume that I can do things on that one, but still, if it works for a client and it's a good solution and that ensures that the job gets on, it's perfect. Uh, at the same
Indeed.
time, sometimes, I'm not
But
say
if I
shy.
may be honest with you, in that period, and I think maybe 10 years ago, maybe it stopped the functionality to be so tough because of the other technologies. But Microsoft Access was really tough as a tool, basically, for any company. And not all of the people know how to work with that, basically. For everyone was just Word and Excel, let's be honest. I mean, Access was really advanced level of IT, if I may be honest.
Definitely, and if you use it correctly, and you have the front end created in Access, but the back end
Indeed.
systems for the real back end, so not talking about menus, but really the content of your database or the content of your solution is via different database connections to a real SQL server, because I really prefer to have a real
Indeed.
backend instead of content in Access. But if you really had that at that moment, those connections and those checks, how to create and ensure that you are um, uh, correct on data, then it's fine. And it's helping other people. So from my perspective, I foresee that Microsoft Access at that moment had to it did get the credits that it should deserve. And
Indeed.
now we have, in my opinion, SharePoint and Power Platform, what it is today, and especially when it's going next, it's the next level on that one, because it's really helping. At the same time, it's low code or no code, and that's um, sometimes also difficult to follow for really die-hard developers, because as a die-hard developer, like a C# developer, a .NET developer, who's really into all the code, of
Yeah.
course, if you make a pro code solution, you can, of course, give all the nitty-gritty, exact details what an end user wants. But if 80% of your solution can be solved with a low-code solution
Indeed.
within within with an 80% reduce of the effort that you have to take into that solution, then maybe it's more convenient to have a low-code solution than a pro-code solution with all those additional hours, all those additional safeguard things that you need to implement. So yeah, like a real consultant I'm now talking. It really depends on what the solution is needed for an end user. So
I
it really depends. Yeah.
I completely agree. To be honest, I really like the example. I never came to my mind that and I agree completely. Access was really powerful, and he didn't get the word like these tools now, especially SharePoint. I think a lot of people were struggling with SharePoint on the beginning. Then SharePoint get on the normal way where he need to go. But I really like the distinction between the Access and the Power Platform, which I completely agree. Access was really application, low code, and you can, if you know how to manage it, you can create really a nice application, let's call it like that, with some functionalities and connect these entities in the background in the database.
Mhm.
Completely agree. I really like this. Good job. Indeed.
Mhm.
So drawing ASCII codes, I heard basic, I heard DOS, I heard access. How
Yeah,
you are getting to this, I don't know, Windows development?
yeah.
Where are you
Okay,
continuing?
okay.
Building
There,
websites,
yeah,
maybe in that
uh,
period?
building websites at that moment. At the same time, I was convinced enough to follow the real education, the real school, to go to school, and there I learned a lot of besides that access part and besides the solution part. I really loved creating solutions, and
Okay,
in the end. I created a solution for a point of sale application, which where I created, yeah, I graduated on, and that point of sale solution was like with a barcode scanner and a printer and all those fancy stuff, and when I was finished with my education, and graduated, I really was convinced I'm now a good developer and I know everything. I
wow,
was really wrong at that moment, but still, I was convinced, and I sent out a resume and a letter that I want to apply for a job at
indeed.
the company Organon at that moment, pharmaceutical company in the city nearby in Os. Which, by the way, I at that moment I met my current girlfriend. So that was yeah, really happy that I went to that
Wow,
company, and yeah, so that's now about 24 years ago. Um, and what I find really interesting, I started August 1st on 2000. I
okay,
learned, and I started there like I'm not sure what the function title was. I think it was something like PC support specialist. Anyhow, I was really on the first step on the ladder, and I
indeed.
was helping other people in just you have a computer, and I know about a bit about computers, and I will assist you in how to manage and to get to everything to the next step. After that, I went get a step up to go to yeah. I'm not also not sure how to call it, but let's call it sysadmin. And
Ooh. From PC
besides this,
support to sysadmin.
yep. But it was still at the local company of the pharmaceutical company
Yeah,
Organon.
yeah.
And after that, I went to the what we called headquarters of Organon, um, and there was my first connection experience with Microsoft CMS system, this Microsoft Content Management System,
Yeah.
together with the SharePoint server, and I'm not sure it's called 2003 version, SharePoint 2003, uh, something like that.
I
So
think the
CMS,
first one is that one. The first
yeah.
one is that one that with
So
GUI and
yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah, so a bit of CMS and a bit of SharePoint, and we were the coloration and communication department. So we managed the whole IT part of the coloration and communication part. So the SharePoint part, as we call it now, just which is one solution. But at that moment was the publishing and the coloration part. We had two tools because that CMS was the publishing part, and the SharePoint Server 2003 was a separate solution of Microsoft. And
Wow.
there I went more like, okay, I now know a bit about SharePoint and CMS. Along the way, I also get my first certification, like Microsoft Certified Professional, Microsoft Certified System Engineer, System Administrator, those kind of certification that were really that was at that moment, that was really an hype to get those certification, because that makes your career easier, better, etc. I
Indeed.
found it really
What
hard
year
at
it is this? What year is this? About the
uh,
Microsoft certified engineer?
that was 2002. I get my first Microsoft certified professional, and in 2004 I get my Microsoft certified system administrator and engineer. So, so
Wow.
that's really at the beginning of my career. Um,
In,
and I find it really I'm not that XM guy at that moment, so I find it really with sweaty oxels and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
really it was really a bit scary to go to that XM location and ensure that you get everything and all those things. I'm not sure if you can remember that,
Yeah, yeah.
but the first time that you need to fill out some such exam of Microsoft, I really was looking like, wow, Microsoft exam, like it's really from Microsoft. It's not the school or the
Indeed.
education. It's really from Microsoft, and Microsoft is Redmond. Um,
Different
at the,
level, different level of exam.
yeah, at the same time, um, yeah, I have a lot of exams after that. So nowadays I'm not that scary anymore. Still, every exam it's a bit scary, I have to admit.
Indeed. Indeed.
um, Especially when you click finish exam, then you have that survey, and after that survey you get
You
your
have the
results.
points in
So
the
that those moments like finish exam and then click next to the survey, that they get the real results. That's also scary moments, but at that moment it was like my life is depending on it. Now I know for now it's not life that is depending on it, but still I think it's good to have some nervous things, or at least to have that focus mindset. That's, I
indeed.
think, feel good. But
Indeed.
that was at 2000, and then 2004, and I moved to the headquarters to get more focused of that organ company for that collaboration communication. And there I get, at that moment I felt a bit, yeah, almost in love of that SharePoint ecosystem and that Microsoft ecosystem, and also more of what at that moment is called Microsoft Active Directory. uh, the virtualization layer that really interested me, because virtualization in the on-prem world was like life changing. I mean,
Indeed.
everything that I knew about admin and servers was like, whoa, there can be a next level of
Indeed.
those management. So that was before those ESX systems that can all those manage all those virtual machines like an hypervisor layer. So that yeah, that was interesting times. And
Which is
almost
the first server? What is the first server? 2003?
2000.
2000? You catch that one?
I catch the
Nice.
Microsoft Server 2000. After that, to 2003, I also get the certification of both. So 2000 and the 2003 and MCC certifications. Um,
Yeah.
it, um, but it was really like overwhelming, and almost at the point that I would, when I look back, I could say now it get more like the same every day.
Okay.
The company Organon made a really change of the company itself. So it's not an IT change, but Organon get transformed to first getting almost that it is a spin-off of Axo Nobel, and
Okay.
therefore it would be an own listed, public listed pharmaceutical company like Organon Biosciences, it should be called. But at the
Okay.
we had the sites ready and everything was almost ready. But in the weekend before it went live, the CEO of Axo Nobel sold the whole subsidiary of Organon Biosciences to Xiangpla, which is another pharmaceutical company. So
Yeah.
instead of that really changed, that it get its own public listing, it was sold to Xiangpla, and that was also interesting time, because then
Okay.
we have a SharePoint team and SharePoint environment of Oregon, which was, let's say, 25,000 people across the world with its
Wow.
own central SharePoint, its central publication system, etc. But
Okay.
SharePoint was also almost the same size, also across the globe. And then our team and the team of SharePoint get to work together to ensure that there will be, for the new company SharePoint, the combined company.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they already had chosen Microsoft SharePoint as a solution, and it was SharePoint 2007. But they didn't have a team. So our team in Os, so really in the Netherlands, get the assignment to implement that new SharePoint collaboration and communication team and SharePoint 2007 across the whole globe. That was really interesting times.
Wow.
And in a couple of years later, let's say, I'm not sure exactly the year, 2009, 2010, it was almost day-to-day job for me, and
Okay.
we already moved to SharePoint 2010. That was really interesting migration, but
Change. And
they almost did the same. At that moment, the company Merck Sharp and Dome, which is in the Netherlands called MSD, but it's in the US known as Merck Sharp and Dome, which is also a
okay.
pharmaceutical company that bought whole SharePoint, including all its subsidiaries.
Okay.
So we get again that same transformation on one hand.
Okay.
On the other hand, they had already a SharePoint team, and they decided that the central headquarters, so to say, that central team will be stated in the US, in the city
Okay.
White House station, and the
Okay.
simple IT would go to India,
Okay.
the service. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and from that moment on, I was really thinking, what will be my next step? Because at the same time, we moved to SharePoint 2013. We have a lot of experience with a lot of SharePoint, but also in migrating, in developing, in solutions, in all those things. And yeah,
Yeah.
I also get a bit older. At the same time, I was not sure what I exactly wanted. At that moment, I get a new opportunity, which was a consulting company that said, if you don't know exactly what you want, but you want to look at different kitchens and have solutions, I went to the Society, which is
Yeah.
the small sister of Capgemini, of course.
Gemini. Yeah.
Yeah, and there I learned all the things about IT consulting, solution development, architecting, and getting more certifications, etc. And that I have done up until 2018,
So
because
wait, time out. When you became a consultant, I must ask you after the SharePoint, because you were confused. So let's be honest, because SharePoint, I discussed, I think with Tiago last week or something. He was on the beginning also SharePoint developer or
yeah,
something. I mean, we all agree that's a separate roadmap, separate learning path, if I may say. So now you need to step out from there and starting really something, building something new, if I may say like that. So what was the challenge, if I may ask? Did you continue Windows Servers 16, SharePoint, or you went to the Azure path, if I may say? Because 2013-14 was really the early beginning, let's call it like that, with the cloud and all that stuff.
yeah. And when I switched was 2011, and
Oh,
so that was maybe we already heard about BPOS and SharePoint Online after that.
okay. Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the predecessors of what we now call Microsoft 365.
Yeah,
So it was a small step in, okay, it's now the online version. At the same
yeah.
time, I learned that my power is not creating a solution on SharePoint, but
Okay,
my real personal power is in um, listening and challenging what the client is asking, and then
okay,
check what kind of solution is fitting on that one. And that can be SharePoint, and that can be a Microsoft Server, that can be custom code, and it can be that there's new architecture. also one of my I think my powers is that um, I understand a lot of old things because I'm a bit old myself. So I know that also
No,
on-prem.
no, 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 no. You're not too old. You have just more experience than everyone else. That's different.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you. But it's yeah, if you know a lot of the on-prem world and really understand how DNS is solving or networking is solving, at least in the old ages, you also can make easier to understand if a client asks something that
Yeah.
how where that question is coming from, and sometimes it's coming from an old requirement that they had for the application without that they have the knowledge what the new applications already can deliver out of the box. And
Okay. Yeah.
therefore, I can challenge sometimes the request by just saying, "Oh, yeah, but in this era of time, you have now out of the box already versioning in SharePoint, or if you
Indeed.
have, if you really want to have an own application, but you want to have the authentication part done." Um, Out of the box, you have OAuth and you have and nowadays Entra ID. You can B2C tenants. Um,
Indeed.
so as I keep up the knowledge that is coming out from the Microsoft roadmap and the update sets, I can more and more easy challenge those questions or challenge those
Okay.
solutions that is already delivered by architects or administrators or developers from their own team
Indeed.
or from the. So I can help with that, and I have yeah, starting 2011 up until 2018 I kept trying to do that. And
Okay.
yeah, at that moment I did, yeah, I'm not saying that I didn't do any exams or from the Microsoft Certified Professionals, but it was not that same amount that I did later on at my current employer.
Yeah.
In 2018, I switched employer from society to Ordina at that moment. Today it's
Yeah.
called Soprasteria because we are
Yeah.
also being bought by Soprasteria, which is a new name. So I often still confuse the names and I still say Ordina, but Ordina is nowadays Soprasteria with
Yeah.
45,000 people all across the world. But
Wow.
um, in 2018, I switched companies at the same time, at least for my part. That's also the time that I begin a bit more on the certification part again, and that learning
Okay.
part again, and also sharing knowledge again. I think that's 2017, 2018 that I get more involved in um, talking on conferences, talking on internal meetups, etc. And in 2020, when everyone gets, of course, the real life story of COVID, which really altered everyone's life, of course.
Indeed.
From I use that moment to um, exchange the work life car part, so that it really that
Okay.
commute part, like I really needed to go 1 hour or 90 minutes or something, sometimes to go to a client that I was assigned to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I swapped that time by just still starting the working day at the same moment, but
Okay.
then but not really going for that client, but first, let's say 30 minutes, 1 hour,
Okay.
learning just
Oh.
every day. And after a week or two or a month, I started in a really insane mode of getting certified, getting certified. So in the year 2020 and 2021, I really
Okay.
stepped up my training material, um, my learning growth, my but also my really transformed it also to and executed that to certification, passing exams. And
Indeed.
yeah, and that was um, because I had time. I I created that time by using that commute time of traveling from
Indeed.
home to the client. I
Yeah.
swapped that time to go learning, training, exams, etc.
Indeed. I completely like your advice, and I was doing that in the past, but I was listening mostly on the YouTube, because YouTube, you need to pay for premium, for example, to lock your phone and to listen, because it have millions of tutorials and all that stuff. So basically for me was, well, traveling, just put the headphones and all that stuff, but I really like better your approach. And in Netherlands, sometimes really the clients know to be really 1 hour, 2 hours far away from the place where you live. The
Mhm.
train can be cancelled and all that stuff can happen. So I completely like, to be honest, and I really like your approach. 30, 60 minutes instead of traveling, I will focus myself and learning and gain some new knowledge. Good job, mate. I really like. Kudos.
Yeah, yeah, and
Really.
when the COVID time gets by and the lockdowns were gone, uh, almost at the end of COVID, I really picked up my knowledge sharing by starting a few things. One of the
Yeah,
things is transforming my sharing knowledge to getting certified to share knowledge to become a Microsoft certified trainer. So I
yeah,
followed, as a lot of Microsoft certified trainers, I followed at Monique Kersen's Neat Consultancy. I followed
yeah,
her training to become a real trainer and getting that
yeah,
certification and of that trainer trainer perspective and also the Microsoft certified trainer part. At the same time, I also followed or started the the Coder Dojo where I volunteer, which is educating kids from 8 up until 18 to learn how to start with coding in their lives. So
yeah.
that's also one of the voluntary things that I do. Yeah, and then it's more and more the same because when I learn something and I know that some other people wants to hear it, I applied for some conferences and meetups, and then it gets like in Dutch called is a vliegwiel. It's like a
Yeah,
catalysator. It's like
yeah,
it's going faster and faster. And before I knew, I get nominated to also become a Microsoft MVP. And not last July, but July 2023.
true.
Yeah, I get the humble and honored email that more people get, and you also have received
Yeah,
that I became a Microsoft Azure MVP just to know that knowledge, get certified in that knowledge, share that knowledge, and get being seen by Microsoft and other colleagues that I'm really enthusiastic about sharing that knowledge and
indeed.
exactly and I still, up until today, I still cannot believe, and now I'm really a Microsoft MVP for the second year in a row, and I still cannot believe it up until today that it's real. But hey, it's the MVP award is at home. I mean, it's real. And for example, this
Indeed.
podcast, but also that we, of course, discussed earlier together, it's real, but sometimes it's when I look back, let's say starting 2000, all those
Yeah,
starting part, or even when it's still it's Microsoft Redmond that gives you that credit or honor.
indeed.
I still humble and proud.
Indeed, indeed. And it's a tough journey, let's be honest. It's not so easy. Yeah, I will finish couple of exams and I will become MVP and la la la. Let's be honest. I mean, that's the reality. But the hard work, I really, as you said, I mean, if I was drawing just as an info how it goes here and there. So to be honest, if I connect all the dots, how you started with, and also kudos to Monique. Maybe I will ping her after New Year, by the way. So train the trainer, Monique, training kids. Also, last year you have been traveling a lot and giving presentations. I saw that
Mhm.
and I remember that. And on top, I think, well, deserve, mate, if I may say it like that.
Thank you. Yeah, and
Mm.
you mentioned correctly. It's all over the world because I get the chance to present in India. I get the chance to present in Seattle, but also in Belgium and the Netherlands. And it's not about far away traveling. It's really about the. I really love when people after a presentation give a compliment or ask more questions that you know that it's really touching something that they really have something worth it in that presentation, some new insights, new things that they want to explore, and then
Indeed.
that makes my day.
Indeed, that is basically a dent as a cherry on the top. I'm saying, the people that wants to really discuss and take that up and see how it goes and where it goes, the things. Yeah, indeed, I really must say one more time, mate, really kudos to the whole journey from 2000, no, sorry, 1988 with the Commodore and all of that stuff, broadcast, teletext. Yeah, I have comment for the broadcast. My brother was working adding comments in the news, who is the guy that is talking and
Moderator.
all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
moderator. My brother was a couple of years ago and he said, come one Saturday or Sunday, come to the studio to see you, my brother, IT, blah, blah, blah. Come to see here 10 people in a line. And it's really like that. The guy is prepared for advertisement. The other one is preparing the speaker. The other one is preparing the guest. He is typing there who is the next speaker. Then somebody's playing the video and all this stuff. I said, wow, it was my first time, by the way. I was so excited to see. And I said, IT, it's a small fish for all of these big fishes here, aligning 15 people at the same time, which is quite crazy. The teletext, I remember via the results. I must be honest, football results in the past. I didn't
Yeah.
read a lot of the news and all that stuff. I wanted to ask you, when you start MCT, if I may ask you like that, what was your first exam, if I may like that, which was really tough sometimes? I know that in the past was, as you said, the first time it's really sweating, and then I passed, and it's really crazy. But if I may ask, for example, after becoming MCT and all that stuff, as a big challenge for you in the last couple of years, what was one of the exams, if I may ask you like that? What
One of
was
the
the exam?
exams.
Yeah,
What exam I really find the most difficult?
yeah,
Yeah, that's an easy one to answer because it was a really difficult to and follow and pass the exam and even failed the first time. And I'm not putting that away because I learned also a lot about failing that exam. That was the
yeah.
Microsoft Azure Administrator, because the
Yes,
Microsoft Azure Administrator is really a tough one, and that is it's about administrating whole set of Microsoft Azure. And I don't have any stocks on Microsoft, but it's it's a lot. I mean, it's overwhelming lot. And at that moment there was you should be able to manage everything of Azure. So you should know, like a T-shaped IT person at the moment, you should know from left to right everything what was in Azure, and from one step deeper, you also need to know how to manage that, or at least uh, use PowerShell, use a lot of things to manage that whole environment. And
indeed,
it's just so big. Microsoft Azure is so big, so massive, that is you get also questions from left to right, like how to manage a network interface on a virtual machine, but also, okay, we have a Microsoft Logic app over there, and how you it's really, really huge, and it's really broad, and I find it really overwhelming, and therefore I've also thought, okay, I'm going to try, but I
yeah,
find it really difficult. So I did manage to get 600 something points. Not
yeah,
enough, because you need to have 700 points to get
indeed,
past. So 600 something points I managed. What I learned also from that one is that somewhere on page 3 of that score report, there was some advice that you have
indeed,
some tips. Maybe you should watch that part, or you should watch more on that subject. There are like 3 topics that you can study additional. But that was really overwhelming. At the same time, you can learn a lot of your mistakes, and you should learn of your
indeed.
mistakes. So yeah.
In the same time, when you were talking, I was thinking I will get a number, but it says just on Google more than 200 products, services in Azure. In the Azure admin, for those who never started, touch it, it's really broader. And as Michael said, it's a storage, network, firewall, VNets, virtual machines, Active Directory, Express Route, whatever is there, and monitoring, a lot of stuff. So all of these 15, 20 services are mentioned. And in 1 week, by the way, usually it takes 5 days, 8 hours, and you have labs, you have execution, and then you need to learn a theory and go on the exam. And I completely agree. That's one of the most overwhelming. Yeah, Azure 400, it's also here. But because I think Azure Admin is the beginning of the road on growing Azure learning, I think that's why all of us found it difficult. But the nicest thing, you must agree with me, once you learn that, it's really easier later. Come
Oh,
to
yeah.
everything, just come to me,
Af-
easy.
After that, I really learned that I knew that much about Azure. When, of course, I passed that Azure Administrator later on.
Yeah,
But after that, I also passed that Azure DevOps Engineering Expert of 400. After that, I also passed the 900 series.
yeah.
I would
After that,
normally I would normally recommend first pass the 900 because the 900 is the fundamentals and that's normally pretty easy. But if you know
indeed,
the 104, then the 900 is really a piece of cake. Um,
indeed.
uh, yeah, I would recommend passing those 900, those fundamentals at the beginning, because those also don't expire. While other exams you have to renew
Expert.
every year, and then
Yes.
yeah, it's a nice one to have a certification that never get expired.
Part. Yeah, that's really a nice part. By the way, the same that you're saying, I somehow saw in myself as deja vu. I have done the same as AZ104. I failed and then I passed. And I'm now planning to take, because it's only that one left, AZ900. I still didn't pass that one, but everything else is past, which is quite funny, when you think about and all of the stuff, how much struggle it have AZ104 and all others.
Mhm.
But indeed, it's a challenges a lot and a lot of changes and all that stuff. I really like it, your journey, I must be honest. And I must ask you, as a piece of advice for the youngest generations, because you have quite a lot experience, a lot more than me, almost, well, I would say double from me, to be completely honest, mate. And I really appreciate. What would be the advice, if I may ask you now? You have been starting with MS-DOS, Commodore. You have been learning Windows Server. You have been pausing maybe SharePoint, then learning SharePoint, not learning, then trainer, then everything that is happening. What would be, for example, your approach if you see me now finishing high school? Hey, Martin, you need to learn and you need to start with this, if I'm asked like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. When I'm now already starting 2011, of course, a consultant. So it's always starting with the one sentence. It depends. But in
Yeah,
this time, it's also it feels like it really depends on what you like to be. In your next step or in the end, that doesn't really matter.
yeah,
What is matching with you? Because if you really love to go in depth with technology, um,
yeah,
then then you should maybe also get that fundamentals part. But then if you are if you think you are more a developer guy or girl, or whatsoever, if you are more a developer, then
yeah,
you should really start, uh, besides the school part, go for that Azure Developer Associate.
yeah,
If you are more an architect, or you want go in depth but not developing, but more like understanding the technical concepts. For example, you want to be the Azure Architect certification, then start first with your Azure Administrator, because I know it's overwhelming, and
yeah,
I really do. I really understand because I failed that one also once. Uh, but at the same time, I really think if you want to understand that architectural concepts and want to explain those architectural concepts, it's really good to have that broad understanding what Microsoft Azure can deliver to you. And after
yeah,
that, getting those details and also the certifications of the Azure Solutions Architect Expert, which is now called 305.
305, indeed, indeed.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
continue.
and yeah, and that's like the dot on the horizon. But
Yeah,
always check the Microsoft certification poster and
yeah,
first check in your own column which is the fundamentals certifications
okay,
and training, and just
yeah,
start with that one because then you get used to how Microsoft exams are working, and that's also an important one because
indeed,
if you understand and you are a developer and you understand the Azure fundamentals and you go for an exam of that one, then you have the experience of a Microsoft exam. It should not be scary, but it makes life more easier if a fundamentals exam is your first exam because then the theory is not that extensive, easier to
indeed,
understand, and then you have that experience of your first Microsoft exam.
indeed, indeed, indeed. My last question for you: what was your last read book?
Um, my last, I have to look it up. It is from Jonah. Do you know how it's called? That MVP, Jonah. Um,
Jonah Anderson, yeah, Jonah
Yes,
Anderson, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. She did write a book, and I have to look it up. It's Jonah Anderson.
About, yeah, yeah.
How it's called? I'm not sure how it's called. It's
Microsoft Azure. It's
yes,
about
about
Azure.
yeah, it's about Microsoft Azure,
Yeah,
yeah, it's from Jonah Anderson, and I really love her story, and it's called "Learning Microsoft Azure: Cloud Computing and Development Fundamentals." And I know
yeah,
it's sold everywhere. It's from O'Reilly,
yeah,
but I really loved her book, and it's explaining a lot. And that's also at my office upstairs, where
yeah,
yeah, with all the ins and outs of Microsoft Azure. And of course, there are new features every time, but it really
indeed,
helps you in guiding in what
indeed.
the Microsoft Azure is.
Indeed. I was in, by the way, when it was in the preview, because I have this O'Reilly subscription. So I have the preview version and I started reading. So later I gave also, to be honest, to my wife now. So she's reading because she was curious about this Azure stuff. She's more about Power BI, but it's really funny to hear, yeah, the same one that we're learning. Yeah, I'm planning, Jonah, basically, I'm waiting a reply. She's, I think, in Microsoft Ignite. And I think I will start 2025 with her, but let's see how it will be. Perfect.
Awesome.
Nice. Perfect. Mate, I would wish you a nice evening. Thank you a lot. It was pleasure, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Thank you for inviting me, and let's meet soon again with
Indeed.
maybe other people who are now listening, but otherwise just you and me for a nice drink. Thank you.
Indeed.
Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening, mate. Bye bye. See you. Oh, and give